Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Saturday, March the 7th. We got a short Saturday slate, 5 games tonight, but we're going to break down the slate position by position like we always do. We'll talk about some players that stand out to me the most, giving you guys some of my early thoughts, what I'm liking as of Friday night. We'll take a look at Draftkings pricing. We'll hit on players I like there. We will talk about some guys I do like over on Yahoo as well, for those of you that play on Yahoo. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. Also, if you would like, you can check out all the exclusive content I do have to offer on Patreon. My Patreon is linked down below in the description. I will have updated core plays for this slate. I won't have an article posted. I just post my article Monday through Friday. But I will have some updated core plays. You can get access to those over on Patreon. You can get access to our Discord chat as well, where we're talking through the slate 24/7. I'm usually in Discord throughout the day, answering questions, helping you guys build out your lineup. So you can check out the Patreon link down below. You can also give me a follow on Twitter, which is linked down below in the description at DFS by Noah. But let's go ahead and take a look at point guard today. We'll start off at the top here, where we definitely have some question marks at the top of this position. So as I'm recording this video on Friday night, I would assume Trey Young is questionable. He did not play on Friday, and the Hawks are on a back-to-back. They do play again Saturday in Memphis. I'm going into this slate assuming Trey Young doesn't play. Usually whenever guys sit out whenever guys are out, I assume they're going to be out the next game if it's a back-to-back. This will just be something we have to keep an eye on throughout the day. Because it is a back-to-back, Atlanta won't host a shoot-around, so I'm not sure if we're going to get an update on Trey Young in the afternoon. We might get an update, or the update might come closer to lock. So just keep an eye on this. Obviously, this is huge news, totally impacts the slate. If Trey Young plays, I think he's in a really good spot against Memphis. I know he disappointed when these teams faced just a couple days ago. He was really disappointing, just 23 DraftKings points in 29 minutes. That game as a whole was just really disappointing. The Hawks got blown out by 40. I think this game is a game we're going to want to get exposure to. Should be very high scoring, should be played at a fast pace. We don't have a total yet on this game, but I would be very surprised if this game does not have the highest total on the slate. You got two of the fastest paced teams in the league. The Grizzlies are 7th in pace. The Hawks are 6th in pace. If Trey Young plays today, it's a great spot for him. I'm going into this slate, though, assuming he's out. I think he probably sits again just because it is a back-to-back. So we'll talk about some of the guys that are going to benefit there with Trey Young out. Then you have a guy like Damian Lillard, who I think could potentially also sit today. This is a back-to-back for Portland. Lillard, coming back from injury, has played 2 games, made his return. I believe that was Wednesday night against the Wizards. Had 41 DK points in 32 minutes against them. And then, obviously, Lillard played Friday night against the Suns. He had a decent game Friday night, I think. I can't remember, honestly. Last time I checked the box score, he was doing okay. But this is a back-to-back for the Blazers, so just keep an eye on Lillard's status. Because he is coming back from injury, there's a chance he could maybe rest on the back-to-back. I assume he plays, though, because I think Portland is fighting for playoff position. They're going to need to win as many games as they can. I assume Lillard plays, but just keep an eye on that heading throughout the day. If he's out, or if he does play, honestly, I think I'd rather get to Trey Young anyways. If Trey Young and Lillard both play, I'd rather go Trey Young over Lillard today. But Lillard's fine. It's a 5-game slate. We don't have a ton of stud options. If you want to go to him, I have no problems with that. But then you get down to these mid-range guards like McCollum, Curry, DeAaron Fox. Steph Curry is actually a guy I like a ton today. He's $8K on DraftKings, which I think is still too cheap of a price tag for Steph Curry. He's actually pretty expensive on Yahoo. He's $44. He's only $3 less than Trey Young. But I think Steph Curry's going to come in at very low ownership on Yahoo, which also makes him a really appealing option over there. So in his first game back from injury, he made his return to the lineup on Thursday night against the Raptors. Actually had a really good game, really to no surprise. I expect Curry to be very productive playing with this Warriors team. They just have no other offensive guys. They have Andrew Wiggins, they have Steph Curry, and that's really it. Draymond Green's not a guy that's going to score much. He's just kind of a facilitator, just runs the offense. The scoring is mainly going to come from Wiggins and Curry. We saw Curry have a nice game, 42 DraftKings points in 27 minutes. They said in that game they were going to limit him to about 25 minutes, and he wound up playing 27. We don't have an update yet on what his minutes are going to look like today. I don't think he's just going to go out there and play 38 minutes, but I think there's a possibility we get maybe 30, 32 minutes from Steph Curry. I think if this game is close, like they could definitely push him more than they normally would. I'm pretty sure that game was close down to the wire against the Raptors, and he played a little bit more than they would have wanted him to. In this matchup against Philly, this is actually a spot I like a ton. Without Joel Embiid, without Ben Simmons, all these guys out for Philly, like their defense has actually been really bad as of late. We can just take a look at their defense over the last like 4 or 5 games. In terms of defensive rating, last 5 games, Philly's ranked 29th in defensive rating, second to last. Obviously, those 5 games include when Embiid and Simmons have both been out. Josh Richardson is a guy that can defend as well, and he's out for this game. So I don't really know who's going to guard Curry here. It might be Shake Milton. It might be Alec Burks. Like, none of those guys are going to be able to stop Steph Curry. He should be able to have his way in this spot. Love Steph Curry here. Love this game's being played in Golden State as well, which I think makes it more likely they push Steph Curry for the fans, just so they can obviously cheer on Curry. If this was a road game, maybe he plays a few less minutes than you would think, but at home, I think they push him a little bit more. Really, the only reason he's coming back is because Steve Kerr said he wanted to kind of give he wanted to treat the fans, I guess you could say. The fans have stuck with this team throughout the year. They've been such a bad team. With Curry coming back, that they wanted to kind of reward the fans with them letting Curry play, or the fans being able to watch Curry play. So I really like him here. We'll take a look at his numbers this season with the Warriors. It's obviously a very short sample size. He's only played like 5 games this season. But he pretty much has elite numbers, as you would expect. He's just going to do everything. Kevin Durant's no longer on the team. Klay Thompson's hurt. Like, the offense is going to run through Steph Curry. In 139 minutes this season, he's averaged 1.44 fantasy points per minute, near 30% usage rate, 35.5% assist percentage, pretty solid 9.7% rebound percentage as well. Really like Steph Curry here at 8K. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I think if we get word that he's going to be able to play like mid-30s, maybe even low 30s in minutes, that's just going to make him even more appealing. Like, Steph Curry can easily go out there and put up 50 Draftkings points in 30 minutes against this Philly team that's really injury depleted right now. There's a ton of upside for him, and because of how injury depleted this Philly team is, I think this is a game that should stay close as well. Plus, this is a national TV game, I believe, so if there's ever an incentive to play Curry a little bit more, maybe because he's playing on national TV, they push him more than they normally would. Just really like Steph Curry here overall. I do prefer him over guys like CJ McCollum and DeAaron Fox. Now, obviously, if like Damian Lillard were to sit because of the back-to-back, that would make CJ McCollum probably the more appealing option over Curry. But right now, I am assuming that Lillard plays. So I do prefer Curry over those two guys. Fox is in a really good spot against Portland, but De'Aaron Fox is just never a guy I feel like I have to roster when he's near 8K. This is a guy that should probably be priced like low 7s, maybe high 6s. When you're getting him in your 8K, like, that just kind of caps the ceiling. He needs to go out there and put up nearly 50 Draftkings points to pay off this price in tournaments. I just don't know if he has that upside. I'd rather roster Curry. I think Curry is a guy that legit gives you 50-point upside. So he's the guy I'd prefer to go to there. But then someone like Collin Sexton, John Moran, even Jamal Murray, I think all these guys are very appealing in the 6K range. I really like Collin Sexton today. 6,900 on DraftKings. Looking at Yahoo's pricing, you got Collin Sexton coming in at $27. So he has just been playing on an absolute elite level as of late, getting huge minutes, 39 and 45 minutes his last 2 games, 50 and 55 DraftKings points. With Darius Garland and Kevin Porter Jr. both out for the Cavs right now, they are just running Collin Sexton into the ground. They're giving him 40-plus minutes a night. Like, he barely came off the floor in that game against Boston. Cleveland's running a really tight rotation right now. I assume, like, even if Tristan Thompson and Andre Drummond come back, that's really not going to have effect on Collin Sexton's minutes. He's still going to play huge minutes even if those guys come back. That'll obviously, like, lower the minutes projection for guys like Kevin Love and Larry Nance. You won't expect those guys to play as many minutes. But I think it's possible we see Collin Sexton play 40 minutes again. At $6,900, that feels like an expensive price, but when you're getting 40 minutes from a guy that can give you a fantasy point per minute, he still projects very well, even against Denver. Denver's actually kind of struggled defensively this season. They really haven't been like the elite defensive team you normally think they would be. I think the only concerns you have, like, with this game is that both these teams do play at a really slow pace. Just looking at pace for this season, I'm pretty sure both these teams are like bottom 5 in pace. The Cavs are 21st. Denver is 29th. So it's going to be a slow-paced game. You don't expect it to be that high scoring, but Denver's really just not played well as of late. We've seen them even against bad teams, like, they're keeping games close. Like Charlotte, I'm pretty sure Charlotte almost beat Denver. Denver lost to the Warriors at home. Like, I think this game against Denver can stay close. Right now, the Cavs are 7-point dogs at home. Honestly, if I was a betting man, I'd probably bet the Cavs. I think the Cavs can win this game. So I do like a lot of players from this game on the Cavs side, especially if Drummond and Thompson are out again. Obviously, guys like Larry Nance, Kevin Love are going to be very appealing. But Collin Sexton just getting so many minutes right now. It's really hard to avoid him. Even though he's expensive, if you're getting a guy that's going to play 40, 42 minutes, he's got 40, 45-point upside. And I said it, like, Denver's just not been good defensively. Just over like their last 10 games, we'll take a look at their last 10 games. They rank 28th in defensive rating over their last 10 games. They've actually been a really bad defensive team. So like this spot for Collin Sexton. The price is coming up, but the minutes are still there, and they should still be there with both Darius Garland and Kevin Porter out. Then you have a guy like Jamal Murray. I think both these guys are very appealing. John Morant in a great spot at home against the Hawks. He was disappointing against the Hawks when they played a couple days ago, but a lot of that had to do with blowout. He only played 24 minutes. He scored 27 Draftkings points in those 24 minutes. But if you assume he plays his full allotment of minutes, he probably gets like 32, 34 minutes. Most likely if he plays his 32, 34 minutes, he's going to get 40, 45 DK points. He was limited against Brooklyn as well. They blew out Brooklyn in that game, 29 minutes, 33 DK points. At 6,800, there is 40, 45-point upside for John Morant in this matchup. Fantastic spot. Hawks are a terrible defensive team. Like I said earlier, they're playing at the 6th fastest pace in the league. I think right now I do slightly prefer Sexton over Morant. But if you're playing like Trey Young, if Trey Young plays today, I would definitely look to probably run a Trey Young, John Morant stack. I think that has a lot of appeal in tournaments. Then you have Jamal Murray. Great spot for him as well against the Cavs. Right now, I think I would lean Sexton and Morant over Jamal Murray, but guards against the Cavs has been a matchup I've targeted all season. I wouldn't stop today. If I was playing multiple lineups, I would definitely have Jamal Murray in my player pool, and I would look to get exposure to him. Even a guy like Shake Milton's fine, but again, I'd probably go to Morant, Sexton over him. So then if we're just looking for value at point guard, I think there's a couple guys we can hit on here. So Brandon Knight, someone I have interest in today. He played 38 minutes last game against OKC, was pretty productive, scored 36 Draftkings points. I did like him quite a bit on that slate. Now we do know that Bruce Brown is going to play today for the Pistons, but I don't know really if that affects Brandon Knight's minutes a ton. There's a chance that you see Brandon Knight and Bruce Brown start alongside each other. There's a chance Bruce Brown starts at point guard and Brandon Knight goes back to the bench, which would make me much less interested in him. But assuming Brandon Knight sticks in the starting lineup, I think it's very likely he gets mid-30s in minutes. He's been a productive player when he gets the minutes, especially since being traded to Detroit. He's been a fantasy point-per-minute player with them. Very similar to the Nuggets, the Jazz have also really struggled defensively as of late. They're towards the bottom of the league in defensive rating just over their last 10 games. So it's actually surprisingly a good spot for Brandon Knight. Still going to be a slow-paced game, but Utah's actually been pretty bad on the defensive end. So I do like Brandon Knight quite a bit if he starts or if he continues to start. I think Bruce Brown as well is very appealing at 4,700 now that he is expected to play. I'm assuming he's not going to be limited. He hasn't played in about 2 weeks, so maybe they could limit him. But if he's not limited, without Derrick Rose, with Andre Drummond no longer on the team, there should be plenty of opportunity for Bruce Brown. He should get big minutes if they don't limit him. So I'd have some interest in him as well. Probably would prefer Knight over him, but both guys are in play as value options. Jordan McRae as well, you could maybe go to. In his debut with Detroit, he played 26 minutes, was pretty productive, had 22 DK points. Now that Bruce Brown is back, I don't expect McRae to play 26 minutes. I assume he gets probably high teens, low 20s. So it's probably hard to go to him. Honestly, I'd rather get Brown and Knight over him, but maybe if Bruce Brown is limited, then that could make McRae somewhat interesting. But I think that's probably it for those guys in the 4K range. If I'm going to that 4K range, Brandon Knight's definitely my favorite play. But then if we're looking for punt plays at point guard, I think one of the clear values today, assuming that assuming that Trey Young does not play, Jeff Teague 3,900 is going to be a really good value option. He was actually somewhat disappointing Friday night against Washington. He was very chalky. He was a value guy that you probably should have been on. I mean, he was 3,300 against the Wizards. He started in place of Trey Young. He only played 28 minutes. He put up 20 Draftkings points in those 28 minutes. He's still very cheap today. He's 3,900. He's still very cheap on Yahoo as well. He's minimum salary over there. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going under the assumption Trey Young does not play, which makes me have a ton of interest in Jeff Teague. I know the price came up a little bit, But this is still a guy that's going to give you probably 25 to 30 DraftKings points most nights. He's been about a fantasy point per minute player this season with the Hawks. It's a really good matchup, again, against the Grizzlies. Another fast-paced game where there should be a lot of points scored. I still like Jeff Teague quite a bit as a value. Even with the price coming up, I think there's still plenty of upside for him to pay off that price. So if I am going cheap at point guard, just assuming that Trey Young does not play, Jeff Teague is a guy that really stands out. But moving on to shooting guard, I don't really like Wiggins at 7,700. I think there's just other guys I'd rather pay for. Kind of the same with Donovan Mitchell. If Damian Lillard were to sit, then obviously CJ McCollum is a really good option. But I think in this mid-range, that's where we can find some really strong plays. Going under the assumption that Trey Young does not play, I'm going to have a ton of interest in Kevin Huerter. He's only 5,600 on DraftKings. Price tag really wasn't adjusted for a lot of these Atlanta guys. They're still the same price that they were on Friday night. Huerter was 5,600 Friday night. He's 5,600 again. He played 38 minutes against the Wizards on Friday night with Trey Young out. Had a very productive game, 37 DraftKings points, had 14 points, 11 assists, 1 rebound, 1 block, and 1 steal. Just what you would expect from Kevin Huerter. Whenever Trey Young is off the floor, he gets to run point guard a lot. He just gets to kind of facilitate the offense a lot more. We know they're going to run him out there for huge minutes if it's a close game. Even in blowouts, they've been playing Kevin Huerter big minutes. Like even in that game against Memphis where they lost by 40 points, he still played 33 minutes. So I feel very safe with Kevin Huerter. I think even if Trey Young plays, like he's still a fine option. But if Trey Young is out again, I really like him at 5,600 on DK. I think he's very appealing over on Yahoo as well. He's only $21 at shooting guard. Him and Collin Sexton look like two of the better shooting guard options, just in my opinion. Now, if Trey Young winds up playing, I'll post updates on Patreon. I'll have my updated court plays over there. But I'm just going under the assumption he's out again, so that's kind of what I'm liking from Atlanta. You do have Buddy Hield for a little bit cheaper, who's fine to go to as well. His minutes haven't been as high. I mean, he's getting only mid-20s in minutes, but he's still been really productive, giving you 30-plus DK points most nights. It's a fantastic matchup against Portland. Pace-up spot here for the Kings. I'm fine with Buddy Hield, but would probably rather go to Huerter if I can find the salary. Same with a guy like Will Barton. 5,300, he's fine to go to, but I would try and get up to Huerter if possible. Great spot for Dillon Brooks, only 4,900 on DraftKings. He was also disappointing in that game against Atlanta, but only played 24 minutes because of blowout. Most nights you're getting probably low to mid-30s in minutes from Dillon Brooks. At 4,900, fantastic matchup. I have no problems with him as a shooting guard value play. Brandon Knight as well you could play at this position for cheap. I think Cam Reddish is also fine to go to. He's 4,400 on DK. He had a big game Friday night with Trey Young out, played 29 minutes, had 35 DraftKings points. Pretty sure he had a career high in points, scored 28 points in that game. So definitely have interest in Cam Reddish if Trey Young were to sit again. But yeah, I think that's probably it for shooting guard plays for cheap options here. I think we covered everything at this position, so let's go ahead and move on to small forward. So you got Tobias Harris for 8,300 against the Warriors. I think Tobias Harris is definitely in play as a pay-up option. Finally bounced back against the Kings last game, had 54 DraftKings points in 36 minutes. After a couple disappointing games, we kind of saw the upside Tobias Harris has. I mean, without Ben Simmons, without Joel Embiid, without Josh Richardson, this is a guy that has 50-plus point upside every time he steps on the court. He's going to be their go-to scorer. He's going to rebound a lot more when you take Embiid off the floor. Getting Tobias Harris playing a lot of power forward is going to help his rebounding numbers. There might even be times where he gets some run at center, depending on what kind of lineups they have out there. We know the Warriors do play small, so we can maybe see some Tobias Harris at center in this game. Like, you could definitely get another 25-point, 12-rebound game from Tobias Harris. Like, he could easily put up 40-plus DK points, 50-plus DK points, especially against this Warriors team that is not good defensively. If Draymond Green were to sit, like, that would just be even better for Tobias Harris. It would just be an even better matchup for him. So at 8,300, I think Tobias Harris is a really good option to pay up for. I do prefer him over Andrew Wiggins if you can find the $600. If Draymond's out again, you got Eric Pascal for 5,500, who I would like quite a bit. Kevin Huerter, you can play at small forward as well. Harrison Barnes is fine as a cheap option for 4,900, but I'd probably rather go to a guy like DeAndre Hunter, especially if Trey Young's out. DeAndre Hunter sees a slight bump. He's 4,900. Trevor Ariza for 4,800 you could also go to. We know Trevor Ariza is going to play huge minutes. That puts him in play on a short slate. Cam Reddish, small forward eligible, you could play him. But yeah, I think that's it for small forward. So let's go ahead and move on to the power forward position. So at the top here, we got John Collins for 8,800 against Memphis. So once we got the news that Trey Young was out Friday night, John Collins was a guy that I was very high on. He started off really slow. He had like almost 15 draft. I think he had like 15 or 20 DraftKings points at halftime. But then he had a strong second half. Wound up finishing the game with 47 DK points. Played only 29 minutes because he was in foul trouble a lot during that game. I don't expect John Collins to be limited on a back-to-back. I mean, they played on a back-to-back they played Brooklyn the 28th, or he played 32 minutes against Brooklyn on the 28th. That was the front end of a back-to-back, and then on the second part of it, he played 36 minutes. So they're not gonna limit him at all. He's gonna play 35, 36 minutes if this is a close game. Without Trey Young, I think that is a slight bump for John Collins, especially in terms of his scoring. He's just gonna get more usage with a high usage player like Trey Young off the floor. I think even if Trey Young plays, John Collins is still a really good option to go to. He was very disappointing against Memphis when they played a couple days ago, but I would expect him to bounce back here, especially if this game is close and he plays his full minutes. He's a really good pay-up option. Still don't know if I can go to him over guys like Curry. Like, honestly, I think I'd try and get to Curry over John Collins, or Curry over Collins for cheaper. You got Collin Sexton for like $2,000 less, who I like quite a bit. Some of these centers we're going to talk about, like Whiteside, Jokic, even if Andre Drummond plays, Joe Val's in a smash spot against the Hawks. If Drummond and Thompson are out again, you got guys like Larry Nance, Kevin Love's still pretty affordable. So it's kind of a loaded position. I don't think John Collins is a must, but if Trey Young sits, he will definitely be a guy I have my eye on. Christian Wood, kind of a tough spot against Jazz. I know the Jazz have been bad defensively, but they're still pretty good against defending centers. Rudy Gobert is still a really good defender. It's not the best spot for Christian Wood. I think if Tristan Thompson and Andre Drummond are out again, I'd rather save salary and play a guy like Kevin Love. Kevin Love just getting a ton of minutes right now. With how injury depleted the Cavs are right now, especially in their front court, they're running Kevin Love out there for 36, 38 minutes. He's been incredibly productive his last few games. 48 DK points against the Pacers, 55 DK points against Boston. I like this matchup against Denver. I think this is a spot Kevin Love can have success. So if Thompson and Drummond are out again, really like Kevin Love. If Thompson and Drummond are out again, love Larry Nance. His prices come way up to $7,100, but just the last two games with Drummond and Thompson out, Larry Nance has played 39 minutes in both games. Been incredibly productive, 43 and 53 DraftKings points. Like, they are just running Larry Nance into the ground right now. I have to assume he plays close to 40 minutes again if Thompson and Drummond are both out. It seems like they're going to play. I'm pretty sure both of them practiced on Thursday, I believe. It seems like they're going to play, but if they somehow remain out, then definitely get on Kevin Love. He'd be a very appealing option at $7,100. Al Horford I like quite a bit against the Warriors. I think this is a really good spot for him. Should continue to put up consistent numbers on a nightly basis with all these injuries to Philly right now. Al Horford's getting big minutes, been really productive, averaging a fantasy point per minute just as of late, if not more. Price came down a little bit to $6,600. Do like him quite a bit in the mid-range. Another strong power forward play, just in my opinion. But I think we covered everything in terms of value here, or just in terms of like power forward plays. If you're going for value, I think Mike Scott's fine to go to. He's $4,300. He's been starting the last few games. The minutes have kind of been consistent. Only played 25 minutes last game, but was still pretty productive with 25 DK points. I have to assume that Scott starts today and probably plays about 30 minutes at $4,300. Like, he could easily give you 25, 30 DraftKings points in those 30 minutes. Really good matchup against the Warriors. Mike Scott at $4,300 is definitely a value play you could go to. He is minimum salary on Yahoo. He's power forward and he's $10, so I like him quite a bit over there as well. But yeah, I think we covered power forward, so let's go ahead, hit on the center position real quick just before we end the video. So at center today, you got Jokic as our most expensive center option. He's $9,400 against Cleveland. I like Jokic here. I don't think he's my favorite stud today. I think there's other guys I'd rather pay up for. Like, just looking at the studs on this slate, if Trey Young plays, he's going to be one of my favorite pay up options. I really like Curry for $1,400 less. I think I'd even play Whiteside for $500 less. You got guys like Drummond, who I would have interest in if he plays. I don't think Jokic is going to be a top pay-up option for me, but I definitely have some interest in him. If I'm going to play multiple lineups today, I'm definitely going to get exposure to Jokic. But if I'm just playing one lineup, I don't think he's going to make it into that one lineup. I think there's just other ways I'd rather spend my salary. Plus, the center position has a lot of strong options in the mid-range that we're going to talk about. So I don't know if I can get up to Jokic in just one lineup. Whiteside I have good amount of interest in, though, against the Kings. Like, Whiteside's just getting monster run right now, getting huge minutes. Been a very productive player. I mean, 35 minutes against Washington when they played Wednesday night, 55 DK points. Pretty sure he had a really good game against the Suns on Friday night. I think he finished with like 55 or 60 DK points and big minutes on that game. Against the Kings, I don't think the Kings are going to be able to slow down Whiteside at all. Price came down a little bit. He's down to 8,900. Given the savings, like I said, I think I'd probably roster him over Jokic today, given the savings. If Drummond plays and Tristan Thompson's out, I have a good amount of interest in Andre Drummond. Now, if Tristan Thompson plays, I'm not going to be interested in Drummond because they still want to give Tristan Thompson minutes. I think it's possible you see Drummond only play like 26 minutes and Thompson gets like 24 minutes, or 22 minutes, I should say. Those two guys are going to split the center minutes when they're both healthy. But if you somehow get a chance or somehow get the scenario where Drummond plays and Tristan Thompson's out, I would actually have a good amount of interest in Drummond because we saw that scenario happen against the Pacers. Drummond played that game and Tristan Thompson was out, and Drummond played 36 minutes and had 60 Draftkings points. I'd expect him to play huge minutes if Thompson were to sit, but if he plays, just the minutes are going to be too inconsistent, too hard to predict, in my opinion. So that's just kind of a wait and see. Luckily, this is a 7:30 game, one of the first games of the night, so we will hopefully have that news before lock. But Joe Val, he's one of the centers I really like today. I think he's one of the stronger plays in this mid-range. Smash spot for him against the Hawks. I know he disappointed against the Hawks. He was massive chalk on that slate. I wouldn't even say he really disappointed. He just didn't get the minutes because they blew him out. Only played 25 minutes, but he still had 38 Draftkings points in those 25 minutes. Like, he was on pace to put up a really big game. The price tag came down on Joe Val. He kind of disappointed against Brooklyn as well, but a lot of that had to do with blowout. Like, Joe Val just hasn't been getting big minutes lately because of the blowouts. But usually in close games, he's getting 30, 32 minutes. Played 31 against the Lakers, 32 against the Kings. He played, well, that was a blowout against Houston. Like, Memphis has been in a lot of blowouts recently. But when they're getting close games, it's going to be Joe Val, Moran. These guys are going to be getting 30, 32 minutes at the minimum, I feel like. Morant probably will play like 34, but I think we can expect Joe Val to play about 30, 32 minutes here. At 7,300, with how bad this Hawks team is defensively, they've been one of the worst defensive teams against centers as well. If you just look at DVP stats, I'm pretty sure they've allowed the most fantasy points to centers this season. It is a smash spot for Jonas Valanciunas. He's one of my favorite plays today. 7,300 on DraftKings, only $32 on Yahoo. Price tag came up a little bit, but I still think he's kind of underpriced for the upside he has. Like, if he plays his normal 30, 32 minutes, like, you could get 50, 55 DK points from Joe Val. He's just such a productive player on a point-per-minute basis that the upside is through the roof in this matchup. So, love him in the mid-range. If Thompson and Drummond are both out, I love Larry Nance as well. He would definitely be a guy I'd want to get in a good amount of my lineups. Horford, I think, is fine to go to at 6,600. But then if we're looking for, like, guys 6K and below, if we're talking about value plays here, there's really nothing that stands out for cheap. I mean, I think Marquise Chris is fine at 5,900, but don't consider him a core play. Still going to have to see a lot of Al Horford, who is a good defender. I know Philly as a team has been really bad defensively, but they've still been good against centers. I mean, Al Horford is still a guy that can defend very well, so it's really not that great of a one-on-one matchup for Marquise Chris. I'd probably try and get up to Joe Val and Nance if possible. Under 5K, though, there's really no value plays that stand out here. Dwayne Dedmon is fine. He returned from injury Friday night, played 20 minutes. He did start that game. He was pretty productive with 26 DK points. He's going to be productive, but you just don't know what the minutes are going to look like. They could play him 20 minutes. They could play him 15 minutes. They could play him 28 minutes. Like, we just don't really know here. The price came up, too. He was, like, really cheap Friday night. I think it was, like, 3,400. He's up to 4,300 today, so I'm much less interested in him. I guess if you're going to go cheap, though, like, he'd probably be my favorite value center. Harry Giles is really cheap, but there's a chance Rashawn Holmes returns today, which is going to take me off of Harry Giles. So, yeah, I think we covered everything for center, guys. I think we broke down everything for this 5-game slate. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you for sticking through the whole video. If you did, I do appreciate that. Before you get out of here, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you would like, as always, you can check out my Patreon, which is linked down below in the description. If you want to get access to my updated core plays, after we get some injury updates throughout the day Saturday, I will post my updated core plays over on Patreon. I'll also be in Discord throughout the day answering questions. You can get access to the Discord chat by becoming a Patreon member. I'll have my article posted Monday through Friday. I won't have an article for this slate, but during the weekdays, I do write an article It's usually very in-depth, 8 to 10 pages long, highlighting all my favorite plays. So check out the Patreon, link down below, see all I have to offer there. Also, you can give me a follow on Twitter, which is linked down below in the description at DFS by Noah. I am very active over on Twitter, so if you do want to give me a follow over there, I'd greatly appreciate it. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.